Alright, we should be live now.
Okay.
Oh, yep, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Blitz Breakdown Football Podcast. As we are breaking down from what happened in the NFL Draft. Ben Eastman alongside Jeremy D. Smith. Let's get into the show right now. We're starting with our first team, the Arizona Cardinals draft. So the 16th pick, they took Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Mississippi, corner Jordan Burch from Michigan, corner Will Johnson from Michigan, Jordan Burch, edge rusher from Oregon, Cody Simon, linebacker from Ohio State, with 115th pick, Denzel Burke, corner from Ohio State, 174. Hayden Connor, Texas guard, already pick 211, and Keenan Crawford, pick 225 by the Cardinals. Overall, they gave it an A minus for that draft. So do you think? Do you think the Cardinals are winners or losers coming out of this draft?
I think it's kind of in between. I would go with there was a couple of them that are kind of fishy as far as skeptical, haven't proved themselves as far as I was concerned on the college football field. Did well enough to make it to the draft, so we're going to go with I'm going to go with the A minus on that one.
Okay, next two we got here is the Atlanta Falcons.
Yay for the Falcons.
So they got a B minus out of this. So Jalen Walker, 15th pick, they traded up in the first round to get James Pierce, which cost them next year's first round pick. And they took Xavier Watts with the third pick of the third round, pick 96, safety Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Took Billy Bowman Jr., safety from Oklahoma, pick 118, and then took Jack Nelson, tackle from Wisconsin, 218. Overall, they gave it a B minus. But what do you think about this Falcons draft class? Winners or losers? Because they did trade up to get James Pierce, which definitely cost them a 2026 first rounder.
Yeah, I don't know if it was going to be worth it. We'll have to see how he is this coming season. I don't even know if he's going to actually get to play this season. Some of these folks, as far as their draft and having to, trade up, down, backwards, sideways. Again, I'm hoping for a little bit better showing on the Falcons this coming year, especially with a couple of the moves they made within that. So we'll go with that. B minus.
Okay. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go for the first three because they have a lot available. Pick 27, it took Malachi Stark, safety from Georgia. Round 2, pick 59, Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. And then Emory Jones, tackle from LSU. There's a whole lot. We're gonna put him in the end screen later on in the video. So Ravens, the overall got an A out of that. So what do you think of it?
I definitely like the way they did some. They were patient, but not too patient. They needed that one from Georgia, no doubt about it. Georgia's always notorious, like any other SEC school, notorious for great players. So again, I give this an A, maybe an A plus.
Okay, next two we got here is the Buffalo Bills.
Bills.
So they took Maxwell Harrison in DB, Kentucky. T.J. Sanders, defensive tackle from South Carolina. Landon Jackson, edge rusher from Arkansas. So the Bills got a B plus for that draft. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a B plus again. And again, we've got some of that old school SEC. Let me repeat myself. Old school, not the newer ones that have been added. So we can definitely give them a B in that. So we'll go with that.
All right, next two we got up here is the Carolina Panthers. First round pick, and they took Teteroa McMillan, which most people turned out to be a D out of that pick. But they got next score in edge rusher, pick 51 from Texas A&M. And so they got a B minus for that pick. So what do you think? Winners or losers? But keep in mind, most people said that Teteroa McMillan pick with pick 8 was a D.
Yeah, I don't think they're giving McMillan anywhere enough credit for what he has done in the college football rankings. So we're going to go with it. I'm going to up that grade just a little bit, in my own opinion.
Okay, next thing we got here is the Chicago Bears.
Oh, here we go. The Bears.
So the Chicago Bears pick 10 took Colston Loveland. Pick 39 took Luther Burden. They got some tackles of Ozzie Travello. Shamar Turner, defensive tackle, pick 6'2". So the Bears overall was a B plus.
personally, like I said, the Bears need everything they can get. Any kind of weapon the Bears can get, they possibly need. They couldn't hurt for them to have a few Bears out there actually doing some tackles. And I'm talking about the Grizzlies, not the daggone ones that they picked. So, yeah, we're going to go with that grade. Maybe a tidbit lower, but again, Bears, they're going to need all the help they can get.
Okay, next team we got here is the Cincinnati Bengals. First round pick 17, Shamar Stewart from A&M. They need edge rushers because they have little issues getting their pass rush going. And they took Demetrius Knight, a junior linebacker from South Carolina. Got some more linebackers and some offense to build around Joe Burrow. So that overall is a B- for the Bengals.
Yeah, let's see if Burrow can use the talent that they've got. Burrow's got his own problems, but let's see if he can actually utilize these weapons. I think they've got a pretty good draft pick going.
Next team is the Cleveland Browns. So keep in mind they had the second overall pick, but traded down with the Jags, so that the Jags will get Travis Hunter. We'll talk about that later on. And with that fifth pick, they took Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. They got linebacker Carson Schwarzenegger, got Quinshon Judkins, running back from Ohio State, due to the loss of Nick Chubb. Harold Fan Jr., Bowling Green, defensive tackle. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback from Oregon. Dylan Sampson, running back from Tennessee. And then Shador Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. The Browns have 5 quarterbacks going into the next season. Overall, it was a B+ for their draft.
Well, I'm going to have to, aside from Sanders being in that, again, Judkins, there's one I'm excited about. I've always been excited about him. I love that guy. As far as the other guys that they've got a good group. I mean, a good group. I think they did rather well. I don't know why they need a 5th quarterback. Maybe because each one that can play 2 games get hurt, and I don't know. But if they can keep healthy, guess what? This will be a team to watch out for, especially with some of the weaponry that they got that they're going to try to start off this year. That's an exciting pick to me. So I'm giving it an A.
Okay, next thing we got is the Dallas Cowboys. They took Tyler Booker, a guard from Alabama, because they had issues protecting Dak Prescott. So the rest of it comes down. They gave it an A- for that draft class.
I don't know who gave it an A-.
Me neither. They did. Besides Tyler Booker, I didn't see hardly any guys I like out of this.
I didn't see a whole lot either, and you know what? Dak is Dak. I'm going to leave it on a bell. And only a half a bell at that.
Okay, next thing we got is the Denver Broncos. I got a B+ for this. Took John A. Barron, corner from Texas, to build their secondary. R.J. Harvey, due to the loss of Javonte Williams. Got some more weapons for Bo Nix and some edge rushers to build that defensive line. Overall, it was a B+ out of that draft.
They say a B+. I'm thinking it's a solid B+. Maybe an A-. Bo Nix is Bo Nix is a great quarterback. I ain't got nothing really bad to say about him. Any kind of weaponry they can have and also protect him, I think it's a great move. So I'm going to give it an A-.
Okay, next thing we got is the Detroit Lions. Pick 28, Tyler Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State. Got some offensive line to protect Jared Goff. Got Isaac Tesla, wide receiver from Arkansas, to fit in with the Lions. Even though they have Monroe St. Brown there on the roster. So what do you think about this grade for the Lions? They gave it a B overall.
I'm giving it a C.
Sorry,
folks.
Aside
from the one pick, did you say from Michigan?
Ohio State.
Excuse me. Sorry, Michigan folks, for me even saying Michigan and Ohio. I know how much you're going to love me for
I wasn't a fan of the rest of the Lions picks.
But as far, Ohio, that was a good pick.
That was just about it.
That was the only pick, though. So Michiganders don't get mad at me for saying getting that confused with Ohio.
Okay, next up is the host for the 2025 NFL Draft, Green Bay Packers. They gave it an A- because they got a lot of weapons for Jordan Love. Matthew Golden obviously being the clear-cut favorite. Got Anthony Belton, Barrett, Sherrell, Colin Oliver, Warren Bryanson, Michael Robinson to fill the defensive back. So we don't know about Jair Alexander's future up in the air, and got some more offensive line for Jordan Love. So they gave Jordan Love some weapons in the draft.
Yeah, they gave him some weapons. I'm hoping that he's going to be able to use them, especially with the man of the hour that they were going to try to pitch that ball to. So again, I Love has got some weaponry. Again, Love scares me to death because he is so small, he is so skinny, this, that, and the other. But as far as that goes, I think Packers should have a pretty good. I'm not expecting a huge takeoff.
No,
but
most people expect that out of year 2, and Love had a second-year slump out of it.
Yeah. So, but again, I'm hoping that they can get all cylinders clicking on this one. This is a team that's again, it's a young team that they have not been designated to go anywhere in the last couple of years, and they have. So now that they've got some weaponry, that's going to be able to catch that ball, guess what? Look out. Anybody playing Packers in Minnesota better thank their lucky stars.
And Detroit.
And Detroit, they're going to have to do some showing out. So I'm giving that one an A.
Because they gave it an A-. You're giving this one an A.
Yep.
Okay, moving on from the Packers, we got the Houston Texans. They got Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, wide receiver, pick 34, and they did not have a first-round pick due to the Giants trade for Jackson Dart. They got Jalen Noel. They got Jalen Smith, Jalen Reed, safety for Penn State overall. They gave it an A- for the Texans.
And I'm going to go with that. That's about as clear. There's nothing to be said. If you watch these guys play season after season, yeah, I'm giving them an A, an A-, an A, somewhere in that category. A good group of corps there.
Okay, next team we got is the Indianapolis Colts back in the AFC South.
There we go.
The best player they really got for real was Tyler Warren. I know they picked up Riley Leonard with the 189th pick, but who knows what the quarterback is going to be in Indianapolis.
Yeah, well, again, Ward was probably about the best pick that they could have gotten.
It was kind of like the team that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, again, I don't know what they give it. The Broncos haven't shown me much.
The Lions, the Colts picks kind of remind me of what Detroit did.
Yeah, so I don't know how to feel about
I
that.
give this one like a C, to be honest.
Yeah, probably around a C, and they're going to have to show something. They're going to have to show something. And I guess that's why we have preseason football. You've got to put these guys out there. You can't be scared to put them out there. You're paying them a big bag. Set them out there. Get them used to your daggum way of doing things.
Okay, next team up. I'm surprised they put this one high on the list. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Overall, they gave it an A-, which I'm kind of shocked about, even though their best player they got was Travis Hunter.
Well, I like Hunter. Okay, there's no doubt. Travis Hunter, it was that was a good pick. If anybody, I
good thing they traded up.
If I could have a fantasy football league right now, and have the players that I wanted, yeah, that would be one of them.
So I would probably lower this A- grade down to something else.
Yeah, I mean that was their best catch, and trust me, it was a good catch. So we'll go with that.
All right, next up is the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, here we go for Chief Land.
So they got tackle Josh Simmons in the 32nd pick due to the trade with the Eagles, the running Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, which they ended up getting Jahad Campbell out of it. And overall, they gave it an A-, which I think is kind of high for Kansas City. But what are your takes?
My takes is this: the Chiefs better put something together, and they got to put it together quick. They're usually a successful football team.
But now coming off a Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, I mean, coming off that Super Bowl loss, they looked like clowns playing. It was not a Chiefs team that I have been used to watching.
No, they got destroyed against Philly.
Yeah, and again, nobody expected the whooping that they took from Philadelphia.
Exactly.
So I think the Chiefs, I'm not going to say they're done by a long shot, but I think they got some kinks in that hose, and that water's going to be coming, and it might hit you in the face.
All right, next team we got is their rival, the Las Vegas Raiders, which this team is not even that good in real life, to be honest. Even though the best part they got was Ashton Genty out of that one.
Oh, boy.
This Raiders team needs a lot of fixing.
The Raiders, you know what? I just...
There's nothing really much to say.
I have to go with that. There's nothing to say. I'm sorry, Raiders fans. I'm hoping for the best for you. Look, we like all the teams, and you know what? We like all the teams to succeed. But guess what? This is football, and not everybody does. So we have to put on our big boy pants and take it. But again, I don't see the Raiders doing anything.
No.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Raider fans. Overall, they gave it an A. I'll probably have to shrink it down a little bit, a whole lot.
Well, they might have got an A for that one pick, but that's about it. They got a
long way to go, especially in the AFC West. We're competing against the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos every year, twice this season too.
If I was planting a garden right now, it would not be in that It would not be in that rock bed.
Next team we got is the LA Chargers, back in the AFC West. They took Amarian Hampton, running back from North Carolina. They took Trey Harris to fit in with Justin Herbert, and they also got Keandre Lambert-Smith from Auburn as well for wide receiver for Justin Herbert. They gave it an A- overall.
Well, they got a couple of decent people, but now we're talking to Justin Herbert. Is he going to be able to produce anything? Are those weapons going to be enough for that team? I think not.
No, probably not.
That being the case, again.
The second-year coach will see.
Yeah, and you know what? If they pull off 6 games this year, I'll be surprised.
What were they last year? Like 11, 10-win team last year?
Yeah, and you know what? I only see it going backwards at this point. I'm sorry.
You think Denver will sweep them?
I don't know about Denver sweeping, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a hard one. But you know what? I see them going backwards. I don't see them going forwards. So I'm looking at 5, 6, maybe 7 wins this year. 7 being the high point because, we've got a couple of these other teams and they've just got more weaponry behind them. They utilize some of these guys that they, and that we were talking about earlier. Guess what? They're going to have a long road to hoe.
Okay, next team we got is another LA team. We're moving on to the LA Rams.
My Lord.
Back to La La Land.
Yeah.
And they got Terrence Ferguson, Josiah Stewart. They got Jaquez Hunter, Ty Hamilton, Chris Paul Jr. linebacker. And they got another weapon for Matthew Stafford. So overall, I gave it a B+. I'll probably shrink it a little bit.
I'm going to stay around the B area. I'm going to be like a bug flitting around the light. I'm going to stay around the B area on that one. So I'll go with a B too.
Yeah, who knows with the Rams?
That's one of those teams that's kind of like, great 1 second, and 2 seconds later, you're like, yeah.
Exactly. Moving on from the Rams, we go on to the Miami Dolphins, who had to come apart last season. Now let's see what they did. They took Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan. They got Quentin Ewers in the 7th round, pick 231. And overall, they gave it a B+, but I'm not really a fan of the Dolphins draft class.
Well, let's go this way. No, aside from Ewers, and again, Ewers was surrounded by a lot of great guys at Texas. And, again, we're excited to see what their next Heisman quarterback is going to be. I'll just throw that out. Ewers got that NIL deal. He was making all that kind of money. Let's see if he's worth the bag where he's heading. I think he is.
So what do you think this grade for the Dolphins would be?
I would do probably a strong B+ to an A- on that one. That's a pretty good guys.
Okay, next team we got here is the Minnesota Vikings. So they got Donovan Jackson, guard. They got Ty Feldson, the wide receiver, to fill with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Wasn't a fan of that pick either. They took the lineman, the Kobe King linebacker, and they took a tight end from Pittsburgh. Overall, they got a B. But some weapons, some stuff they needed to fill, and they didn't fill it.
Well, I think that tight end position could be, helpful for them, especially who they've got doing their play call. Doing the
Kevin
play
O'Connell.
call. Yeah, so I think that there's a couple guys in there that'll be quite helpful in that one. So I'm going to give that one probably a C+.
Moving on from the Vikings, we got the New Orleans Saints. And tell you what,
here we go.
The 9th pick, they took Kelvin Banks, tackle, and then they took a guy that I won't be able to probably not going to see be the franchise quarterback for quite a while. Tyler Shaw, quarterback for Louisville. Like that bad throw he did at the combine, and you can play it in slow motion. Like it was an awful throw by him, period. And they gave it a B-, even though I wasn't a fan of their draft class overall.
Okay, but if they can give it a B-, let's give it a little bit high on my end. Sorry, folks out there in the Mardi Grasville, but you know what? I wish the best for you, like I do everybody, but there can only be be one winner to go to the big dance, and there's going to be a few that's going to show up.
And it's
Guess
not going to
what?
be the Saints.
I don't think it's going to be the Saints year for that one.
Especially in the wide open NFC South with the Buccaneers and the Falcons coming for the crown.
Yeah.
All right, next team we got, we're going to go on to the New York Jets.
Oh, here we go. The team that's been made fun of and made for the last year or so. And I won't mention why.
So they took Membu, the 7th pick overall, to protect Justin Fields. They took Mason Taylor LSU from LSU tight end. They took Malachi Moore, safety from Alabama. Overall, they gave it a B+.
Okay, I'm going higher. All right, I'm going higher. I think the Jets made some really good picks on that one.
I think this will not be in the A, like the A range.
I'm definitely giving them a solid A. Maybe not an A+, not an A-, but I am
a flat A.
I'm giving them a flat A, and then you know what? That flat A, y'all better watch out, or you're going to land up on your flat A's when that team comes out on the field and gets all the cylinders clicking.
You think they have a chance against the Bills?
I think they have a good chance against the Bills.
Moving on, we got the New England Patriots, which they added some weapons for Drake May in the offseason. So they got Will Campbell, Trevion Henderson, Kyle Williams, Jared Wilson. Listen, they also picked up Stephon Diggs in the offseason for a 3-year deal to face his former team, the Bills, twice this season. They got some weapons for Drake May, but who knows in this AFC East right now?
Yeah, this one's kind of a toss-up. Again, you got a good group of core guys coming in from the draft. You know, most of these guys coming in from the draft, a lot of them, you know, again, it would be great to build a football team around
Drake
who you
May.
could pick. You know, I mean, that would be awesome. Unfortunately, not the real world, but again, I think they got some solid picks there. I'm going to give them a good solid B+.
So you think they need to get more weapons for Drake May?
I think so, but I think they did some good recruiting on that one. I really do. I got to take my hat off if I was wearing one on that one.
Next team we got is going to be the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, Eagles fans.
So
let's take off and soar.
Overall, they got an A-, even though the best part they got was the trade up for Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. I was a little concerned about most of their picks.
Well, again, I don't. Let's see. There's a couple of them trying to pull up here. Who else do we have on that one? On that side, like I said, the Eagles. You know, they were clicking on all cylinders, and I think that they'll continue to. I don't really see a whole lot of room for improvement. Actually.
No, I don't see that either.
That's the thing. Their picks, you know, again, everybody, I'm glad and I'm proud of all these young athletes that are, you know, moving on to the next chapter of their lives at the big game. And again, I just really don't feel that the Eagles need to do anything different than they were doing last year.
Unless they go have a complete color party.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a Cowboys type season.
No. Moving on from the Eagles, we got another NFC East team, which is the New York Giants. So they got Bill Carter with the 3rd pick. Then they traded up in the 1st round to get Jackson Darrell, possibly their franchise quarterback. And then they got Darius Alexander, defensive tackle, Cam Scatterboo. They probably need some more weapons out there in New York for Jackson Dart, or possibly whoever their quarterback is coming in for the Giants.
Okay, let's see if Dart and Scatterboo can get on the same page. If they can get on the same page, guess what? That's going to be an ugly
Giants
thing.
team.
Yeah, that would be a team that you probably don't want to step out. I mean, let's look at Scatterboo. Okay, he's not that tall.
No.
He is tough as freaking nails. He runs like a guy that's 6'6", 330 pounds. He doesn't take any crap off anybody. Not to mention, I mean, who wins the daggum MVP coming off of on a loss? That guy. Who said he was going to do everything that he said he was going to do? That guy. And yeah, so you know what? There's another team right there. Guess what? I think if they get everything, you know, I say this about a lot of teams. If they ifs and buts and candy and nuts, but you know what? There's some good players, and like I said, I'm really excited for Scatterboo, and as far as Dart having somebody to go to, not only can that guy run the ball and run over folks, not only can he squeeze out of spots, he can also catch, he can also throw, he can also kick. What can Cam not do? You know what? I'm glad he went down to lower as far as in the
as
draft.
far as the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Giants got a good scouting team. I'm giving that one an A.
It depends who their quarterback is, because they'd have guys like Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
for
well,
the QB
you know
job.
what? Okay, Jameis Winston, I haven't been excited about last
Russell
few years.
Wilson, though.
Yeah, well, again, I remember Russell Wilson. Some of these guys, I'm sorry, you may have the experience, but age is starting to catch up to you.
Catches
up. It's knocking on your door.
Age catches up to you in this league, and
Yeah.
it's gonna bother you.
Yeah, and you know what? So I think they need somebody, a new play caller, and I think they'll find that in the dark.
Okay, moving on from the Giants, we got the host of the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, here we go. Steel City Steelers.
Steel City Steelers. So defensive tackle, they did not go quarterback. They took Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Iowa, Caleb Johnson, running back from Iowa, from losing Najee Harris to the Chargers. Derek Harmon came from Oregon, not from Iowa. Jack Sawyer, edge from Ohio State, for TJ Watt. They got their guy, possibly Will Howard, at quarterback to fill the DK Metcalf and George Pickens. Overall, they gave the Steelers an A.
I'm going to go with an A as well on that one. Enough said. Look at the draft on that one. Everybody in the draft seems to have been making some smart decisions, and then there's a couple teams I'm not going to mention that made some dumb decisions. And as far as the dumb decisions, y'all know who you are. Other teams in fan base know who you are. Not everybody's going to be happy. We don't pay these guys. Again, we want to encourage fair play. We want to encourage everybody to have a good time with it. And we also, again, we'd like to take our hats off to these guys that are moving up to the next step in their football career. So we're going to, nothing bad to say, just not real happy with it.
Okay. So moving on from the Steelers, we're going to Santa Clara. We're home of Super Bowl 60 on NBC. It's the San Francisco 49ers. Coming off a Super Bowl run against the Chiefs, lost it, and they had a complete come apart last season due to the injury bug. So they went out, took Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Barnes, and the rest goes on and on. But overall, I'm not a fan of this Niners class. Who knows what's going to happen with the 49ers after they come apart.
Well, they've got some good guys on that team, and they've got
most of their defense is completely gone.
Yeah, that's the problem. Defense wins games. Let's put it this way. I know everybody says offense. Yeah, you got to have an offense. The reason you got to have an offense is if your defense is slacking. If your defense gets caught, not paying attention to what they're doing. Defense is what wins games, and you know what? That's what they need. They need some good, solid defense. I don't know what they rank them up at. I'm throwing them at a C.
So moving on from the Niners, let's go into another NFC West team, which I mentioned is the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
So 18th pick, they took Gray Zabel, guard from North Dakota State, and then pick 92 in the third round, Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama, even though I have Sam Darnold on the roster. So A- for the Seahawks, or would you probably shrink it down?
As far as the draft picks are going, I'm going with an A- on the draft picks. I don't think they did. I think they did great picks for both of them. So yeah, I'm going to go with that one. We'll give them an A.
Excuse me. Moving on from the Seahawks, we are going down south. Going down south, we're going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So 19th pick in the first round, they took Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State.
All right, that dude I love, but continue on.
Hear me out.
Okay,
They took Jalen McMillan last year in the draft.
Yeah.
Put a wide receiver 3 with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Where does Egbuka fit? Wide receiver 4.
I don't know. Look, I love the dude. You know what? He was one of my more. I had 3 or 4 or 5 that were I was really excited about. Like I say, I'm excited about all these guys moving up. But I had 5, and you know what? I love that dude. I don't know what it is. I mean, he is just a good around player. If things ain't going his way, he is the one that's going to build you up. He's the one that's going to edify you. He's the one that's going to make you work harder. That dude is a workhorse, and I love the guy.
They also took Ben Morrison, Jacob Parrish, 2 edge rushers, David Walker, Elijah Roberts, and another receiver, which is Tez Johnson from Oregon.
Yeah, I think it's a good group. I do, and I got my bell premature there, but you know what? Again, I gave that whole course an A.
So let's move on. The team with the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans, when they took Cam Ward, Where the rest of their guys I hardly even know, but overall they gave it an A.
There's a couple guys on that team that were whatever.
Yeah.
But I think all that trading and this, that, and the other to get Cam Ward, to be your to orchestrate that team. You can't get any stronger than Cam Ward, as far as I'm concerned. Not out of that whole slew. I'm not trying to down any of the other quarterbacks. Cam Ward doesn't get rattled very easily. Dart doesn't get rattled easily. Milrow sometimes gets rattled, but I mean, there are some good quarterbacks in this draft.
Well, I'm kind of scared what he's going to do in Tennessee because they have no weapons, no offensive line whatsoever.
Yeah, and you know what? If you ain't got an offensive line, if you ain't got anybody to block you, you're not at Alabama or somewhere like that where you can sit back and bake a cake and wait for it to go off. You're going to have to get these plays off, gone, and I'm sure he's going to have to get used to that. So coming from where he did.
So next team, will be the final team actually, my sleeper team from last season, the Washington Commanders, who got destroyed on the NFC Championship again. Like I keep mentioning it every single episode. I don't know why. I don't know why I keep mentioning it. Probably the wrong Commanders fans. I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. But moving on, the 29th pick, Josh Cornley from Oregon. Tackle defensive back Trey Amos.
Yeah, I like that guy. Continue on.
Jalen Lane, wide receiver from Virginia Tech, even though they had Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an overkill, but still, he's a great player.
Overall, they gave it a B for the Commanders.
I'm going to give it a little bit higher. I'm going to give it a B plus on that, possibly an A minus. Again, I think they were choosy enough that I think they made some good decisions. Overall, 32 teams, folks, and I think, like I said, let's wish them well. I don't care where they are playing. You know what? You might be yelling at them. You might this year, you might be cheering them on this year. And next year, they might be traded off into greener pastures and a little bit bigger bag. So you better enjoy wherever they're going. And wish them all luck and health. And let's just get ready for another great NFL season, folks.
Quick question, though, before we wrap this up.
All right, let's have it.
Will Jay Daniels have a sophomore slump going into his second year?
Well, let's put it this way. I don't think so. I think he was tested enough last year. I think he's going to know what he's. I think he's going to go up.
Stroud won Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, and then last year he had a sophomore slump. So you're saying Daniels will not have a sophomore slump?
I don't think so. I think he's going to, like I said, once they play, they talk about the sophomore slump. I mean, we brought Bo Nix into that equation too, and people like that. I think everybody knows what to expect out of these players, and you know what? They're going to make mistakes. They're still, there's certain things to learn. Guess what? Everybody watches film, So you just, again, you can have the cleanest, the prettiest game out there. Guess what? Everybody still watches film from year to year, from game to game, and at the end of the day, you never know what can happen. But as far as the sophomore slump, I don't see it in that kid.
Okay, so that'll wrap up this episode of the Blitz Breakdown Football Podcast. Hope you enjoy. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload coming from this channel. We got some big things coming later on, coming up in the football season.
You're going to have to be patient with us. We're still trying to lift this channel, try to get it where it needs to be. Again, like, subscribe, share, follow, do whatever. Like I said, we're a young at this podcast stuff. We're in our infancy when it comes to the NFL podcast, but we're not in our infancy when it comes to the NFL, folks. No, between Ben and I, we've got over 70 years experience within that NFL. So you know what? We know what's going on that side of the card. Until next time, folks.
Until next time, stay blitzed. We'll see you in the next upload.